Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Their website, taxpayer.com. Welcome back to the show, Kris.
Thanks for having us on.
Kris, a little bit of taxpayer, I guess, outrage coming from the Kamloops Regional District. Can you tell us the story there?
Yeah, and it is quite the story. So this is a shout-out to the newspaper Kamloops this week. The reporter there, Jessica Wallace, did yeoman's work. So she uncovered 5 years of spending on what is basically the taxpayer's credit card by one of the former head honchos at the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. So that's the regional district that includes the city of Kamloops. And she found and tabulated receipt by receipt, form by form, more than $500,000 in spending over 5 years, and much of it was for booze. It was for alcohol with super fancy restaurant dinners and even gift cards that were purchased at the local liquor store and handed out to each other. Again, this is by the former one of the head guys at the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. Things like a champagne room. Like, I don't know about you, I haven't been in a champagne room before, but close to $8,000 in taxpayers' money was spent at a champagne room at a bistro in Whistler. Like, it's just completely unacceptable spending, and I don't know how she got the story at first, but she started filing a bunch of FOI requests and got a little bit of information and then really started digging. And so now some whistleblowers have stepped forward and they're speaking out about this. This just really highlights why we need a strong office of the Municipal Auditor General for BC, because clearly so much money and so much power are flowing through local government levels with next to no oversight. We need to know what is going on there and what's being spent.
Don't they have rules that you can't go around buying gifts for each other as part of your expenses?
Well, you'd think, right? Like,
and who supervises it? Nobody, or is it their pet dog?
Exactly, or their stuffed cat, right? This is the thing. It defies common sense. Any of your listeners right now, who among you can expense booze, even while you're out for lunch at an important meeting? You're not allowed to expense alcohol. But these guys were doing it for 5 years straight. And not only that, not only like super fancy dinners, we're talking like $3,000 dropped at Moxie's restaurant in one sitting in Kamloops, including alcohol apparently. No, these are, hundreds of dollars worth of gift cards that were bought at the local liquor store. And not only that, but they were buying presents for each other. So say some board member happened to be occupying space for years on end, they would give them a, hey, you've been here for years on end gift and get taxpayers to pay for it. Like a gold and diamond necklace to do that? Nearly $1,000 worth of it? Like, it's just mind-blowing. And there's other stuff on there that has no answers. If you go to this website and look at all the table, how it's been put in on receipt after receipt, you can scroll over and look. There's no evidence or no excuse given for, there's an $1,100 jeweler's receipt from some shop in Vancouver. Why? Why the heck is that there? Hundreds of dollars spent at Canadian Tire with no rhyme or reason or name attached to it. Why? So this is what's bizarre, is that when she went back to them and said, how is this justifiable? They said, oh, well, it didn't violate our policies. Well, your policy...
Well, you've time to tune up the policies here, buddy.
No kidding. That's my favorite thing, is when politicians kind of look at you mystified and say, oh, well, it's our policy, or it's our bylaw. I said, excuse me, McFly, who do you think is writing the policy in the bylaw? Chop, chop. And, this isn't the 1970s. It's 2021. It's a no-brainer.
Are these elected officials?
Some of them that are actually out at dinner with these folks are elected officials. But the person holding the credit card was not. He was a bureaucrat.
Oh, well, this sounds like the entitlement that the officers of the legislature felt about buying tree splitters and so on.
Exact. Funny you should mention that, because it sounds so similar. So here it is, thing after thing. And so quite often you'll find with these municipal politicians or bureaucrats, if you take a look at the expenses when you do get a hold of them, they'll kind of ebb and flow. So maybe twice a year, it'll gear up. There'll be like a taxi receipt, airfare, hotel, and some meals for the UBCM meeting, for example. Or if they go to the federal one, then it's twice a year. But it kind of goes up and down in 2 peaks. This one was just a steady drip, drip, drip all the time. Basically, every other day for 5 years, this person was going out to restaurants, hitting up coffee shops, all on your dime. And over the 5-year period, there's only one entry for McDonald's, where a lot of us would go to eat if you're trying to save money. These are really fancy, nice eateries and steakhouses, and didn't pay for a nickel of himself.
You remember George Papadopoulos, the PR director for the White House Press Bureau, when he was working for President Clinton, when they had the Clinton-Yeltsin summit here in Vancouver. I found him at the lineup to McDonald's to get an Egg McMuffin at 8 a.m, along with us reporters. And I'm going, really? I thought you guys would be getting room service. He said, no.
Good.
Yeah, so even somebody like George, I think he's on Good Morning America now. Yep. I mean, he was eating at McDonald's, for God's sakes.
Yes,
and you
exactly.
think if you worked for the president, you'd have a little more of an expensive count than that.
Exactly. But luckily, some people realize that this isn't, entitlement culture on steroids here, that they need to be responsible and respectful of taxpayers' money. In this case, there was no respect shown whatsoever. And so we're trying to decide, what's more iconic for an example of spending. A wood splitter that chops up firewood that you don't need, or a champagne room on the taxpayer dollar. So this is why, again, we absolutely need a permanent, nonpartisan, robust municipal auditor general. So that's their job. They've got a team. They have a 1-800 number. Whistleblowers can call them the moment they see something funny going on at their local government levels, and they can investigate and hold people accountable. Like, we absolutely need this in BC.
Have they responded at all to this story yet?
No, apparently not. And I just heard word that he had apparently grabbed and gotten another job and was sitting on a board with some sort of a board that was an amalgam of universities and post-secondary education. And breaking news today is that apparently he's resigned from that role. Now, again, we have no idea what was going on there. Everything could have been on the complete up and up. We don't know. But I did hear that he has resigned now from that secondary position that he had.
Well, I mean, you're saying we need a municipal auditor general. The auditor general provincially and federally every year points out wastes of taxpayer money, and it seems there are no consequences for doing that. Do we have to have legislation that would have consequences, and would politicians actually pass legislation that would make them responsible for this?
That's a darn good question. So at the federal level, there are consequences. Many cases, they do amount to a slap on the wrist. But hey, it's a start, and at least it's there. So if you're found in violation of the ethics code, you are fined, several $100s. So maybe we need something like that. We need something that is big and strong and actually holds people to account. Because it's just completely unacceptable. Again, the mind reels. Just imagine being both a bureaucrat and an elected politician at the local city level in today's day and age, and buying each other jewelry and iPads and stuff, and using a taxpayer credit card for it, and not blinking? Like, shouldn't there be a big alarm bell going off in your head right now? Like, these folks should have known better. And so, unfortunately, we need rules, and we need a mechanism to keep these folks honest, obviously. And so, this is why we're begging the Premier to make sure that we have serious transparency and oversight at the local city level. And this is what I don't understand. So the previous government brought one in, but it was really in name only, Municipal Auditor General. And so there's a website, you can find it, but it didn't really do much. And then the new government, led by Premier John Horgan, is getting rid of it, like mothballing it entirely. So it was already just like a toothless lapdog anyway, and now he's gassing it. It's so weird. Like it flies in the face of wanting to be open and transparent and accountable. So we're telling him, buddy, like reverse course, please, sir, Mr. Premier. Like they need more oversight, not less.
Well, this also gives you the impression that people, once they're in government, whether they're elected or appointed, they feel that they're justified or entitled to fleece the taxpayer in any way possible, and then you have leadership that turns either a blind eye to it or is approving it.
Yeah, and that's a major problem, because not only does that waste taxpayers' money that could have gone to, say, tax cuts, so you and your neighbor and your elderly aunt are paying less and fewer taxes, but this also means that that money isn't going to better things, like, you know, repairing potholes or making sure that people are safe in the parks, things like that. You know, this is not what taxpayers' money is intended for. It is not meant to get politicians and bureaucrats loaded at lunch. That's not what it's for.
And gold and diamond necklaces.
Exactly. Like, it's just so strange. And again, the fact that we even need to explain this to people is bizarre. And so, on top of all that, it erodes trust in government. Because it makes people go, yep, there you go, fat cat politician, or, you know, bureaucrat wasting money. And it makes people bitter and cynical and tune out. It might make them not go vote next time at their local elections. It's a bad thing. And it's nonpartisan. Every single political party and ideology and stripe in this province should want transparency and accountability. So this is why, again, the Premier needs to get on this right away, and we need this office.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Kris, I think nearly 500,000 Canadians received a notice from the Canadian Revenue Agency, Taxation Canada, telling them that their accounts had been suspended or closed, and they weren't told why. They were just told that. And now people want to find out what happened. Was I hacked? Are we getting any satisfaction for these Canadians in need to somehow get back into the stream here with tax filing season here?
No, and we're hearing more and more about this, especially in the media reports, that people are getting more frustrated as we're nearing tax season and they need more help. You know, we have a lot of bureaucrats that are working in and around the Ottawa-Gatineau area in our capital. A lot of them are working from home, but they're still technically supposed to be working. And so if the people who are paying the bills aren't getting the services, again, we need accountability here. So we need ministers to step forward in question period and explain what is going on. And they need to talk to their deputy ministers, so that's the bureaucrats, heads of departments, and tell them to pull their socks up and fix this. But right now, it certainly looks like a mess.
Well, also, too, with the CRA failing to respond to this, people said they've been on hold for hours and hours, some for days.
Oh, my.
Trying to get through, and there's no answer. And wasn't there a survey last year that found like up to 30% of calls were not answered? Yes, which is astounding. When you think of something as important as, you know, the tax man coming for you, or tax lady, so to speak, if you think of the CRA and what kind of power it wields over people and what it can do, we need better responsiveness. And when people call for help, they need to be able to get through to a human being, and it needs to be traceable. This is another complaint I hear quite often. If they are lucky to get through to a human being that helps them, the next time they need to call, that person's gone in the wind. There's no way of actually tracing it and keeping a good record that way. So it sounds like there's a bit of disorganization going on there.
We'll give them a little bit of leeway because things are nuts with what's going on with CERB and everything else, but this definitely needs to be better service for people, especially considering how many thousands of bureaucrats are employed. They haven't seen a pay cut. They're the ones that are still getting full salary in the capital region, while a lot of the rest of us have had salary reductions or lost our jobs entirely, so they have every right to demand better.
What should Canadians do about this latest kerfuffle? And as you've pointed out in the past, Ottawa still hasn't solved the problem with their Phoenix pay system, where maybe the CRA people aren't doing a good job because they haven't been paid for 3 months. Great
question. Or they've been overpaid and they're like super worried about it because they're trying to keep tabs on all that extra money that they're going to have to give back. It's a gong show. What they can always do, and I always encourage them to do this, write to your local member of parliament. And it really matters. If you get out there with your neighbors and you get a snowball going and you write to your member of parliament and you copy the local newspaper on it, they notice that. And politicians notice that because for every one email or phone call or letter that they get, they assume that 100 other constituents, read voters, feel the same way. And if they're worried that their neck might be on the line next election, meaning they might lose that vote, they will bring it up within their own caucuses. It doesn't matter which party it is. It could be any one of them. And they will tell their leader, hey, I'm getting a lot of email about this. What do we do about this? And then they'll hopefully bring it up in question period. And that's when you hope you get a good response from the government and you get the media following it. So that's how you get that domino starting that line. So contact your member of parliament.
Also, an old story, but I don't think much has been done about it. Something like $50 billion in payable taxes, mostly by millionaires who have parked their money overseas, still not gone after by the Canadian Revenue Agency, when the rest of the G7 has done a great job of going after this money that's due but hasn't been paid.
Great point, exactly. And it's not like they have a lack of employees. There are a lot of employed, salaried bodies there. And they go to conferences and they network with international partners, like you just mentioned. So why are we at the back of the pack here, tracking these people down? It's truly inexplicable. But as we've seen exposed with what's going on with COVID, I mean, our lack of vaccine rollout here that's happening, the fact that we had the Public Health Agency of Canada landfilling masks and gowns and gloves just a year or so before this happened and not replacing it, when it's literally their job to be prepared for a pandemic. Like, that's your job. I don't know if you remember that Simpsons episode where the guy's working in the peanut factory and he made everybody practice an elephant raid drill every day, and finally Stampy came through the front door. Well, it came through the front door and we weren't ready. And these people are paid a salary every single year. So yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of balls being dropped at the federal level here, and people have every right to be mad, and they should be holding their elected officials accountable.
We'll have more with Kris Sims right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Kris Sims. Speaking of the vaccine rollout, Canada, I think number 58 in the world for getting vaccines out. The Globe and Mail did a story saying the problem is, at the start of the pandemic, the federal government did not penny or ante up enough money to encourage Canadian vaccine research, so that's why we're not producing any domestic vaccines. And of course, every other country in the world producing this wants to give their vaccines to their own citizens first.
Isn't it embarrassing? I was also watching a show a couple of weeks ago, and apparently various potential Canadian vaccine manufacturers and distributors, and we're not talking people that are just sprang out of the ground. You know, they've been there, they're established, had approached the feds back in like April or May saying, hey, we can do this and for this amount of money and all that sort of thing. And apparently the feds didn't even get back to them for like more than 40 days. Just like left the phone ringing off the hook for more than a month. Like, that's just completely unacceptable. Again, like, there are thousands of people employed in the national capital, and plenty of them, their job is things like, the pandemic, vaccine rollout, public health, all that stuff. If they can't do that, then we're going to have a house cleaning here. And the idea that we're way at the back of the pack, and not only that we're now hitting up what was described as the global equivalent of a vaccine food bank. And we're now in line and jockeying for position with developing countries and poor countries. That's bad. Because not only does that mean that we're way back there and our elderly, our senior citizens, and our people at most risk are going to have to wait and wait and wait, and our businesses are going to go belly up because of it, and more people are unfortunately probably going to get sick. That's really bad, but now we're also taking that spot from a poor country. That's not okay.
For pandemic recovery, apparently the BC government had a $300 million fund to help small businesses survive this, but only $5 million of that has actually found it in their hands because the bureaucracy was so intense and deep and long that the average small business just doesn't have the personnel or expertise to fill out these extensive forms to get it.
Yeah, I've been hearing that as well, and we're not connected with them, but we sometimes fight in the same space, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. We hear from them a lot, and apparently they've been fighting an uphill battle as well. More so, we've been hearing more about places like Ontario, where things have been really tough, where they haven't been able to get this message through. I'm not generally hearing that it's as bad here in BC, but I could stand to be corrected. It's just extremely frustrating to see people who have worked their entire lives or put savings into or taken out big loans in order to get a good, viable business going, and now through no fault of their own whatsoever, some random tsunami has hit them.
Also, if you just start out a business, if you hadn't been in business for 2 or 3 years and didn't have a track record of income, you can't apply.
This is the thing, and this is why the government solutions to things are often big and awkward, and they squish a lot of people. And it's just so unfortunate that it's turned out this way. This is, again, one of the main reasons why we are demanding that the Prime Minister get rockin' here when it comes to vaccine rollout. Because for people who want one and who choose to get vaccinated, a lot of people are hinging their reopening, their reinvesting, their restarting their lives, at least publicly, on getting vaccinated. This is like a big milestone. If you take a look at, I saw video footage the other day from Florida. It was just some guy with a cell phone that took video footage. It was just some, random restaurant patio. It looked like something from an old movie. As crazy as that sounds, people are sitting close together, they're laughing, they're eating, they're drinking, they don't have masks on, the sun is shining. It looked like an old film reel. We need to get to there as fast as possible. And for a lot of folks, if they choose, vaccine is that big hurdle. And we're not even running towards it right now. We're sitting in the starting blocks. Why? Because we don't have the supply. And for folks who are trying to turn this around and go after provinces, no. It's the federal government that is procuring the supply. It's the provinces that will then distribute it. But if they don't have any, then they can't very well distribute it.
Well, for places like sporting venues, junior hockey, high school basketball games, and so on, BC apparently has tens of thousands of quick test kits that can give you a result in 15 to 30 minutes sitting on shelves. Couldn't that help reopen some of these things where you do the test and you're negative, so go on inside?
You'd think. And again, it's not like, at first when this was first happening in the spring, it was kind of a scramble. And people are saying, just lock down.
They've had a year.
It's been exactly. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We are. And we should know this stuff by now. People should be reluctant and unfortunate experts in how to deal with this now. And they're not. So again, if you're not happy with how this is rolling out, pick up the phone, be firm but be polite, and call your local representatives at every level of government and say, I demand better. I deserve better than this. So get your act together.
But I think it's silly. You've spent millions on quick test kits and then you're not using them. I mean, it would be different if they said, oh, we've used them all up. And also, I still haven't seen any ads on TV telling you how to book a vaccination or how to book a test.
Right, but what vaccine? Where's the vaccine? So this is the thing where if, it's a theoretical vaccine, you're going to book for it. It's really that grim right now as far as the statistics go when we compare ourselves to other countries. And so again, it's awful to watch this roll out this way. I guess we can hope maybe this came up between U.S. President Joe Biden and the Prime Minister. Maybe somehow we're going to be getting a shipment. Who knows? Because their rollout's going a lot better. So again, folks need to demand better from their various levels of government. What we're seeing right now is not okay.
I mean, I look at Canada in the Second World War. We ended the war with the third largest navy in the world.
Bingo. But
Canada didn't start the war by, first of all, sinking all of our destroyers and submarines and corvettes.
No.
And then saying, there's a war?
No. We didn't shoot ourselves in both feet and then try to run. I know, it's bad. And what you're alluding to there also, we are more than $1 trillion in debt. Like, it's serious. The federal debt is more than $1 trillion. That's a 1 with 12 zeros after it. And people can say, the pandemic. No, sorry. We were spending like drunken sailors, and by we I mean the feds, before COVID hit. So we should have been making hay while the sun shone. We should have been saving up money. We should have been taking in royalties and income taxes from all these great natural resource jobs, but they weren't. They were strangling natural resource jobs while blowing money on all sorts of ridiculous things. So we were already deep, deep in a self-made hole while this thing hit us. So we were really caught with our pants down. It's really it's a really bad situation. They need to do a 180 in both their thinking on how they're doing this rollout and what they're doing to the economy.
And my apologies to responsible sailors, but I've watched the show Below Decks, and it seems they can't wait to go out and get totally plastered every third night.
Well, if I were stuck in a metal can out on the ocean, I don't know if I'd be too quick to judge. We'll have to see.
Well, when you're getting a $2,000 tip in U.S. money every 3 days, right, and you don't pay any tax on it because you're an international seafarer, maybe a little responsibility would go a long way. But also, too, you wonder how much the producers of the show provoke these people. How much do you think you can drink? Show us.
Oh, sure, of course. So that's the curse and the blessing of reality TV, eh?
Yeah, you've worked in television. You know there's a little staging going on.
What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I have no idea. Well, most of my career has been in radio, but I've worked in TV enough
We call it hair and teeth. Radio people call TV hair and teeth.
Yeah, well, you go to cover a protest and nobody's chanting or shouting, and you go, well, what are you guys upset about? Show us.
Yeah, good background. Hey, that's background audio for Radiohead.
Yeah, well. Kris, always fun chatting with you. Where can people go if they want more information or want to raise issues with you?
We would love to hear from them. Please go to our website, taxpayer.com. There you will find a nice resource on how to write a strong letter, what petitions you might want to sign, all that good stuff.
My guest has been Kris Sims, BC Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Her website, taxpayer.com. Your email, Kris?
ksims at taxpayer.com. So the letter K, S-I-M-S at taxpayer.com.
And you could also send questions for Kris to us at info@howstreet.com, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter at Talk Digital Net. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.